Hello, my beautiful besties. For today's video, we're going to consider this a bonus video because I wanted to do my first ever January reading wrap up. I have never done this before. I don't really know if I'm going to do this right, but instead of adding this portion to like my repurchase or trash series, I'm just going to make this a bonus video here on this beautiful Saturday. So with that said, besties, let's get started. Okay, so I only read 5 books this month, which is a lot for me because I have not read a lot of books like this in a hot minute, but I finally got back into my reading era and I'm way too excited. And I want to talk to you guys about all the books that I read this month. So the first one we're going to start off with is Metal Slinger right here. This is from Rachel Snyder and this is the Metal and Fire series in book 1. And book 2 is already being worked on right now. And this was the first romantasy book this is the first romantasy book I read this year. And I was truly blown away by this particular book. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but pretty much you have these two opposing characters. You have Bryn and you have Acker. Bryn lives in Haya. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's an island that's surrounded by water. They are pretty much a shunned community from Kenta. Kenta is the land kingdom. Okay, this is like the big land kingdom where they have so many other regions that live over it, and they're on an exiled island called Alaha. I don't really know if I'm saying that right. So you have Bryn, and she lives pretty much in the slums of her city, and she is in the military. She learns how to fight. She learns how to defend herself, and she's always dreamt about going to Kenta where she can go to the market there and she can trade for goods and kind of check out what the Kenta life is like, stepping foot on land for the first time in years. Okay, she's dreamt about this moment. So she goes to Kenta with her soldiers, her group, and while she's there, she comes across a soldier named Acker, and Acker starts to stalk her down and is kind of scaring her, and she's like, what is going on? And eventually a mess ensues and some damage is done at the Kenta Island, and they completely flee and go back to the Alha Island because they don't want to get in trouble, because they pretty much realize by her causing destruction in Kenta in the marketplace, it's going to break the peace treaty that these two lands have with each other. Okay, so she was like, oh my god, what'd I just do? Goes back home, and when she's there, a boat comes signaling that one of the Kenta soldiers is on their way, and they arrive and and when they're there for her. And from that moment on, the story just completely unfolds. Okay, there is so much tension between the two main characters, between Acker and Bryn. They have this amazing slow burn enemies to lover style relationship. There is some political aspect to this. There is some amazing elemental magic to this. There's so many different plot twists that happen in here as well. Like there's some small plot twists that kind of happened at the story, but the biggest one occurs at the end. And for me, I just found the writing to be so magical. I was drawn into this world. I was rooting for the FMC. I was just like, she is just so strong. She's so badass. But at the same time, we were experiencing life through her eyes. We were experiencing everything for the first time through her eyes, experiencing what it's like to be on land, away from water, what it's like to encounter elemental magic, what it's like to have someone that you absolutely are supposed to hate, but kind of have a slow burn desire for. There's so many different amazing magical elements that happen in this book. I think Rachel did such a great job at capturing the story between the two characters. She really pulled me in. I devoured this book in less than 2 days, and it was my first read of the year, and I gave it absolutely 5 stars. What I think is really sweet about this too is that I've actually had amazing conversations with the author, Rachel. She's so incredibly sweet. She's so beautiful, and the fact that she's taken her time out of the day to talk to me was just like the coolest thing in the world. I could not stop fangirling that she was answering some questions I had. She's been so sweet, and she's just amazing, and I cannot wait for part 2 because the way that she left this book off at the end, literally, I was literally reading on my couch and I shot forward, and Corey sitting next to me playing Fortnite. He's like, is everything okay? And I went, oh my god. And I slammed my book shut. I literally messaged Angelica, here's a screenshot, and I was like, what the heck just happened? Because I'm pretty good at determining how a story is going to go. I'm like, this is pretty predictable. I can kind of guess these two characters are going to do this, these two characters are going to do that. I did not see the plot twist in the book. I could not see it. I did not see it. I even talked about Angelica. I went back and said, Where were the little clues? There were virtually no clues whatsoever that this plot twist is going to happen. And Rachel left us on such a huge cliffhanger that my mouth literally dropped open and I was obsessing about it. I could not stop thinking about this. Acker became my new book boyfriend. He is amazing and I cannot wait to see where she goes with part 2. The book I read after that was actually Quicksilver right here. Now, if you guys do not know about Quicksilver, where have y'all been? Because this book has been so highly talked about over on BookTok, Bookstagram, BookTube. It's actually being made into a Netflix, I think, movie or maybe a TV show. I don't entirely know. But I've seen everybody talk about this for a while. And I was just one of those people. I was like, do I fall for the hype? Do I not? Because I've tried, besties, I've tried some of the top rated BookTok books. And let me tell you, I was like, what is this shit? Okay, like Songs of Achilles, I could not get into it. Anything from like Malibu Reads, could not get into it. Beach Read, could not get into it. Some of the Colleen Hoover books, could not get into it. I'm just like, I am struggling to listen to the top recommendations from BookTok. So I was really hesitant about this. But I was like, you know what? Let me give this a go. And let me tell you, besties, Kingfisher Shadow Daddy, he did not disappoint. He did not disappoint at all. So pretty much, you're going to have this girl named Saris. I think that's how you say her name. She is a human living she's living in a realm that's pretty much the desert. Think of like, what's it called? What's that movie called? The Maze Runner, like in this, when they're like in, there's like a desert scene. She lives like in the desert, okay? And she lives in a very poverty-driven land where her queen has stripped the land of everything and she holds all the water. And so she is pretty much allowing where Saris lives in like the third quadrant just to suffer, to have plagues, plague them, to have plagues just kill off people, of sickness, of dying, of starvation, and mostly of thirst, because live in the desert, water is very, very scarce. So Saris Fane has to learn how to defend herself from a very, very young age, and she knows how to fight. She knows how to be an amazing thief, because she'd find a way to go into the queen's quarters and steal water and food to ration out to her people, because she doesn't believe in letting her people die and starve for some queen's benefit. So she had learned how to fight from a very, very young age, but she also discovered from a very young age that she has a certain ability with metal. Wherever she goes, she has the ability to call physical metal to her. She can hear the metal talking and it responds to her. It can morph into the way that she wants it to. It can come to her the way it wants it to. She can kill people with metal if she wants it to, because she has a way to telepathically communicate with metal. And she decided one day to go steal from the queen, one of the queen's guards, and takes one of his metal cups, and that she knew that she could sell for a lot of money. She climbs the wall to go back home, thinking that everything's going to be okay, but comes to find out the queen's guard was like, absolutely not, no one's stealing from us, and they come to call for her, and she sees her people being attacked, her brother being attacked, so she decides to say, you know what, I did it, I'm the thief. They took her back to the queen, where she was going to be, sentenced to death in front of the queen. But while she was there, and she was fighting for her life, she comes across this sword that is stuck in like this wooden floor, and she's able to pull the sword out, and when that happens, the sword liquefies and turns into Quicksilver, and out pops Kingfisher Daddy right here. And that is where she discovered that there's a whole other realm that just never existed to her, and she's taken into that realm, and she's now introduced into the Fae world, and she realized that Fae are real, that they have vampiric characteristics to them, and she's now introduced to this whole new life where she realizes that everything that she's been told as a child, that's been fairy tales like vampires, fae, snow, magical powers, that all was myth to her, and she entered until she met Kingfisher Daddy, and she realized that that was all true. And now you have to see her coming to battle this new revelation, and now she has to come into her own, and she has to now figure out what side does she want to fight for. Does she want to fight for her mortal world, or does she want to fight for the Fae world? Because she realized that there's an ongoing battle between the two. Who does she want to save more? It is absolutely fantastic. There's amazing elemental magic in here, really good enemies to lover plot, very, very, very strong slow burn desire, and the ending just has you going, oh my god, the second book just got announced. It's called Brimstone. It comes out November 18th. I do have it pre-ordered. This was a 5-star read for me. I devoured this literally in 2 days. I could not get enough, although my back is kind of destroyed because Koa dropped a whole glass of water on this, and it is what it is. I shouldn't have left it on my coffee table, but I quickly was pulled into this book so wholeheartedly. I told my whole husband about it, so he knows the whole story because I've tried not to ruin anything for y'all. And he was just like, damn, I want to watch this show. I want to watch the movie. I'm like, you have to. You have to, you have to, you have to. So for me, this is a definite must read. The book that I read after that is actually Onyx Storm. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about this. I'm sure you've seen everybody talk about Onyx Storm. This is the third book to the Fourth Wing series. And I have to say, I have 2 copies. I have the Twilight. I mean, I have the Target edition and I have the deluxe edition because I'm psycho and I need to have all. And, I will say I read this in 2 days. Now, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars because this one didn't have the same appeal that Fourth Wing did for me. For me, out of the 3 books, Fourth Wing was still the best book. It had the best enemies to lover plot. It had a military style school. It had a great elemental magic emerging. It had great political moves in here as well. You never really know who to trust, what was real, what was not real. Xaden and Violet have this really weird hate-love relationship. You get to talk with dragons, you get to fly with dragons. It's such a magical world. So I had high expectations for Onyx Storm, and I will say the first half of the book kind of left me a little bit confused because we were introduced to so much so fast. Now, we were pretty much thrown in exactly right where the second book left off, which is not a bad thing, but we were just thrown name after name after name, place after place after place. Like, we were thrown right into like a military combat zone where fighting was ensuing, and you're just like, whoa, wait a minute, let me catch up for a second. You're kind of thrown through a loop in this book, and then you're kind of going, who are these characters again? What do they do? And so if you don't, I would kind of recommend rereading the other 2 books before you read this again, just in case. But once you got through the halfway point and you start going on the adventure, it really picked up fast. I love the fact that in this book, Violet gets to take her dragons to go on an adventure to see if she could find where her youngest Andarnia is from, she finds out she's I guess I can't ruin it for you, but she goes on to adventure to find where Andarnia is from, which is her second dragon, and you kind of get to see how Violet has evolved more into a mature woman and how she's taking more responsibility, and she's really letting herself go in this one when it comes to her love for Xaden, when it comes to her love of her friends, and when it comes to her love of her dragon. There's definitely some heartbreak that takes place in this book. There is not as much smut as there was in previous books. The smut was very little compared to the rest, but the story really starts to unfold. You definitely have a lot of questions that are answered in this book from previous books, but then you also have new questions that arise with that as well. So I really do love the way they did the plot. I really do love how they ended the book. It left it on a question as to what just happened, why did it just happen. Now we need to figure out what just transpired. Like, you just left us on such a huge cliffhanger, and now we have a long time to wait. Rebecca Yarros did state that she was writing a contemporary right now after this, and then she was taking a break to spend the summer with her kids, and then eventually she was going to write the 4th book. So the 4th book might not even take place. The 4th book might not even come out until like 2027, 2028. I don't really know. But I know that it left so many people going, oh my God, what do we do now? It really was a fantastic read. I did enjoy it. Not as much as I did the other ones because I just kind of wanted more. I'd like to have a little bit more smut. I like to have more relationship between Xaden and Violet. And I don't know, I guess I wanted some more, and I guess I didn't want to be as confused as I was in the beginning, but regardless, it still was a really good book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Now, this next book, y'all, I have seen barely anyone talk about this book, and I'm just like, why? This has been my first God tier read. Like, this was a 6-star read for me, and this is the Reign of Shadows and Endings. This is the Legacy series right here. I have seen barely anyone talk about this. The ones that I do see talk about this are the ones I generally do love their reviews on their books. And let me tell you, this series has me captivated. I'm currently on the 3rd book. The 4th book doesn't come out until August 28th. So I'm so mad at myself because I'm like, well, I couldn't have discovered this back in like July, right? Like, so I don't have to freaking wait. But here we are. So this book here, this is about a girl named Tessa. And Tessa is Fae. So she lives in this Devram realm where it's a modern twist. You're going to have Fae that live with these beings called Legacy. Now, Legacies are descendants of the gods. They're not fully gods, they're not demigods, but they come from the bloodline of the gods, okay? So they have a higher magical power to them than the Fae. Now, because they're not full-on descendants, but they're like descendant upon descendant upon descendant, like great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, they do have very magical powers, but their powers do get depleted whenever they use them. So instead of them taking weeks to replenish their power, they find a way to replenish it quickly by having a fae as their source. So they create a source bond with a fae, and that means that they are connected through mind, body, and soul. And so whenever the legacy need to use their power, if they deplete their rations, they can pull from the fae. When the fae can replenish their powers pretty quickly. So they pull from the fae, so it makes them incredibly strong, okay? So that is kind of the premise of the book, is that if you're fae, you could be picked to be a source to legacy, which is supposed to be the highest honor. Now, every year, whenever an heir comes to age, which is the legacy, like lady or lord, son or daughter, whenever they come to 24 years old, they become an heir, which means that they are now allowed to be old enough to select a source. So they go through a whole selection process, and the selection process takes a year, where they pick out a person who they feel will be the most compatible to them, and they start making their source bonds and marks with them. So here we have Theon, who is part of the Eris kingdom, and he descends from the god of death. And he comes across a girl named Tessa. Now, Tessa is a fae, and she's at the selection ceremony going, oh God, I could give two shits about this. I just want to go eat. I want to go party. I want to go drink. I want to go have beer. I want to go have sex with mortals. I want to go let loose and party. She's not thinking she's going to be selected at all, until she is, by Theon. So she gets selected to be his source. And from that point on, literally so many things unfold. There truly is no happy ending in this book, okay? I'm going to tell you guys that right now. There's not a happy ending. It is definitely a more darker romantasy. There is definitely some smut in here. Nothing that's against anyone's will, but there's definitely some great smut in here, a very, very slow burn. There is a lot of rage and grief and just, you really feel for this main female character, because you feel she's just been taken away from all her friends and family and now made to be almost a servant to a god. And she doesn't want that. She's forced into this. But because she's forced into this, she has to learn how to adapt by realizing that maybe, just maybe, she isn't who she thinks she is. And she has to come to a identity crisis to figure out why she is the way she is, who she is, because she doesn't really know where she comes from. And it just goes into this great development of a story plot line. Like, I love the characters in here. I hate the main male character, but I freaking love him at the same time. Like I said recently in the video that I wanted to climb up him. I just love the banter between the two, the slow burn, the forced proximity, the, enemies to maybe not enemies. I can't necessarily say lovers, but there is just a great banter and dynamic between Theon and Tessa. You get to go along with her on this journey to discover who she is. It very much is a dark romantasy. You're not going to really find any happy endings in this, but let me tell you, the way the story ends just literally had me grasping at the edge of my seat going, oh my God, what happens next? This is my first 6-star read. I could not put this book down. I finished it in 2 days. From literally page 67 at the selection ceremony, I was hooked from that point on. Because at first I was like, I don't really know. No, I was hooked. And I also love the fact that there's modern elements to it. They have cell phones in here. They have tablets. They have iPads. They live in luxurious apartments. They know about the mortal world. Like, they're so involved in them, but like not involved at the same time. So I love the real modern twist into this romantasy tale. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. It deals with different types of gods, lesser gods, demigods, legacies, fays, mortals. There's so many different battles that happen here. Battles of power, battles of will, battles of strength, battles of the battle of the female that says a man will not take me down. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fan-freaking-tastic. Which leads me into the last final book that I read this month, which is going to be The Storms of Secrets and Sorrows. This is book number 2, the Legacy series. And in here, we have so many questions that were answered from the first book. So many questions that were answered, but then we have so many more questions that were not answered. You really started to see who Tessa is becoming as a woman, as a fae, as a god, as a mortal. We don't really know. We don't really know about Tessa's background. But I really love about here is the character development. You really start to see a true character arc between the 3 main characters. That's right. There's 3 main characters. And I really love the fact that, in the first book, you see, from Theon and Tessa's perspective. But in the second book, you actually start to see from 4 different characters' perspectives. So you start to see all these different stories unfold and how they truly are connected to each other. And you also get to see a great character arc. You get to see how a character that you really freaking hated may not be so bad after all. or maybe he is. You don't really know what direction she's going to take you in. Like, you literally don't know. One minute I'm hating Theon. Next minute I'm loving Theon. Next minute there's a guy named Luca that I'm falling in love with, but then at the same time I'm not liking Luca either because I don't trust him now. There's Axel. There's so many different characters that start to play a huge part in this story, and you really start to see all the villains in the story start to emerge, and you get to have these questions, and you get to have this strong, powerful fight between a female and a male, and you wonder who's going to come on top. Who really is the source? There's so many different questions. I'm trying not to ruin anything. I'm trying to be as vague as possible, but I have to say, you guys have absolutely got to read the Legacy series. It became one of my absolute favorite series. Like I said, I'm on the 3rd book right now, and the 4th one doesn't come out until August 28th, and I just literally am just gripping my seat because I cannot devour these fast enough, and it really is going to leave me broken at the end because I'm going to be like, well, what do I read now? So those are all 5 books that I read this month. Pretty much all of them are 5 to 6 stars, minus Onyx Storm, which I gave 4 stars. And I literally have a full TBR to keep going. I'm kind of wondering what I'm going to read next. Well, I guess I have an idea of what I'll read next, but like I'm kind of like sad because some of the books I have next are just standalone books, which I don't mind because like right now these 2 are going to be part of a series, but they're just standalone at the moment. So I love diving into a series, but it's nice reading standalones every once in a while. But like when you get connected to a series and you get connected to characters, and then it's over, you're like, what do I do now? That's kind of how I feel, but I am so excited. So let me know down below if you guys have checked out these books. I'll have them linked down below, but yeah, this is my reading wrap up. I don't know if I did this right. I try not to ruin anything. You guys asked me to do this, and I suck because I kind of like struggle not to just blurt out what happens, but I don't want to ruin it for anybody. I just will say that these stories are fantastic. You should really check them out. But that is it for today's bonus video. If you guys like this style video, please make sure you guys give this video a cheeky thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you guys have not already. So I do post 3 to 4 videos every single week. Make sure you guys head over to my other channel. It's R for Life. You guys get to see my cool, wonderful adventures, my amazing husband, Corey. And as always, the biggest thank you goes to these beautiful, wonderful Patreon members you guys see right here. Thank you guys so much for everything. And to my subscribers and viewers, thank you guys so much for being here. Whether you guys like this video, you guys thumbs down this video, you guys subscribed, you guys did not subscribe, either way, thank you guys so much for being here. I love and appreciate each and every single one of you. So with that said, guys, I love you, and I'll see you guys in my very next video.